The story begins when a warrior Desir and more than 100 people are in the Shadow World, where the Dragon of Destruction Bromir Napolitan is, and the mission objective for the Shadow World is to slay the dragon and to save humanity. They attacked the dragon together to clear the Shadow Labyrinth. While the dragon was shouting, the fire was in his mouth, asking how dare this mere human stand against him. On the other side, Desir, while looking toward the destruction and the dead people, think that at the end of hell reside the Shadow Labyrinths. These labyrinths came from the Shadow World and are the ultimate threat humanity must face. While thinking 10 years have passed, they are in this hellish world, and this world has claimed the countless lives of their friends and lovers. But now, this is Napolitan's end. He will slay him and finally end this hell. However, he attacks the dragon with his magic, then shouts that he has sealed off the dragon's voice. They all move ahead with excitement that Desir has done great work, and now this is the end of its life, and attack him with their swords while the dying dragon says this can't happen. The dragon unleashed his fire blast onto the battlefield and killed many people. After a gruesome and devastating battle, only 6 out of the 100 survived the final battle, and the survivors include Desir, Sword Saint Knight of Light Raphael, King of Esteban Donovan Asilan, Tower of Magic Sage of Wisdom Jode Exarian, and Lady Aegis. However, after killing the dragon, they are sitting where Raphael appreciates everyone that they were able to save the world. Donovan asks why the message hasn't been broadcasted, yet it should be clear because they have completed the mission. Raphael replies that he is correct, but once the task is cleared, they are supposed to return to their original world. But it seems this place is different, and it doesn't seem to follow the standard rules of the Shadow World. But they should wait a bit. After this, Jode said that 6 out of 150 million people survived, and then he started the calculation by saying the survival rate is absurdly low. Then a girl in them said stop doing this calculation because it won't bring back the dead. After listening to this, Jode replied that they must try to understand what happens whenever an incident occurs. However, practically 99% of the mages have died so far. They must understand what went wrong. Then Desir said, well, in any case, he thinks they should just be satisfied that they saved the world. After this, the girl appreciates Raphael saying if he weren't there, it probably would have been a lot harder for them. He replies that protecting them was just part of his duty as a paladin, but Desir played a more significant role than he did. Then they all start appreciating Desir's hard work, saying they probably wouldn't have been able to defeat it if they didn't have Desir with them. After this, Jode said he thinks Desir is dying first, even if he had help from the artifacts. Still, how did he, a 3-tiered magic circle magician, not only do a complete analysis of the dragon voice's logic pattern, but also know how to seal that power? Also, this is something that he has never seen or even heard of. While appreciating Desir's talent, Jode asks why he is still a 3-tiered magic circle magician. At this, Desir replies that since he is just a commoner, he was never fully trained or educated. It's possible that if he had been taught formally, he could have saved a lot more people. Moreover, Jode says if only he were in the tower magic, he would have received endless support. Then Raphael stops them, saying stop talking about the past. Then he happily says it's very likely that once they return to the world, they will receive a grand welcome. Then he asks others what they will do from now on. Donovan replies he will be visiting his fallen comrades' homes. While holding the gold nugget, he says he will return their belongings to their families and forever remember their bravery. Then the girl said she would return to the Western Kingdom and comfort the families of deceased ones for all the people who laid their lives there. She is sure they would be glad if they made a memorial shrine for them. After this, Jode said he would research a way to stop any possibilities of the recurrence of the Labyrinth of Shadow, because if any other Labyrinth of Shadow of this scale occurs once more, it would mean the end of the world as they know it. After this, Raphael asks the Lady Aegis what she will do after coming out of this hell, but she doesn't respond. Then he said what about Desir, he's sure he will be welcomed anywhere he goes. Then he asks him if he will return to the Havrian Academy. When Desir is about to respond, they suddenly feel the dragon's pulse beating. They all get scared to see this. Raphael asks whether it is still alive. Then the girl asked to wait for a second. It meant they hadn't cleared their mission objective for this Shadow World, but they had defeated the dragon. Donovan asks if they didn't finish it, and Desir replies that he thought they did. Jode shouted, saying it was impossible because he had confirmed it was dead. But wait, as it could be its heart, because a book he read a long time ago states that a dragon's heart is similar to that of an engine. It's also very similar to a mana circle. It draws in an enormous amount of mana and channels it throughout its body, so when the dragon dies, it loses control of its accumulated built-up mana. But they can think of it as an engine that has lost control, and overheating if that is the case. The girl shouts at him, saying what he is talking about, say it in the more straightforward term. Then Desir says an overheated engine would explode, and she fearfully replies why they weren't informed of this matter before they killed the dragon. He replies that today was the first time a dragon had been slain. Then Jode said the built-up mana is bursting out, it is unfortunate, but they must prepare themselves for the worst then. Raphael said unbelievable, is this truly the end? And the girl prayed to God for help. Meanwhile, the overheating engine explodes. While thinking this is how it ends, Desir looks toward his hands and enters his original world. He was worried while looking at himself in the mirror. However, he looked toward his hands and thought he was dead. But he found himself in Harem Academy as there were many people, and then Professor Bridget came over and started addressing everyone there. She starts her speech by saying she knows many of them have gathered there today, hoping to attend their academy, so she can't express enough gratitude for their determination. While the students there comment on her, saying a person like her is a professor as she's pretty in a slinky dress, and start laughing. And when she looks at them, she scolds them, saying she can't hear everything they know but doesn't talk while she's talking. Then she starts her speech by saying that, unfortunately, not all of them will be accepted. However, they will all take the traditional entrance exams following the normal procedures. After the exam, they will only accept the top 600 students into their Harem Academy. While the students were getting worried and started asking one another about the exam they would be testing them on. Then she was about to tell the entrance exam will be. But Desir and Aegis were worried as they already knew what they had to do to clear the mission objective within the shadow world. While sitting aside, Desir was crying, thinking, is this real? Meanwhile, a boy comes toward him to relax, saying there is no need for him to be scared. The shadow world he is about to enter is not the real world. Instead, it is a simulated shadow world only meant for testing purposes. However, the professor tells them that, in any case, all of them will have a designated mentor who will explain the exam in more detail. Also, for the class of 3613, their entrance exam number 172 will take place in 2 hours. Then she leaves, saying she hopes to see them all there. Desir, while crying, comes out of the middle of people, but the people don't understand what's happening to him. However, he was still crying while thinking he was back at the entrance exam for Harem Academy, the greatest magic academy in the nation. He didn't understand what was happening. He wondered it's already been 10 years since he graduated from there, and if this is year 3613 it's mean. He entered the shadow world in the year 3616. While 10 years after that incident, he became trapped inside the labyrinths of shadow, and the world was destroyed in 3626. Then is he seriously 13 years back in the past? And if that is the case, what was the meaning of his suffering for the past 10 years, the pain and anguish, and what about the sacrifices everyone made there? Desir shouted and hit himself, saying he did all of that meant nothing. Desir was crying while sitting on the stairs alone, thinking that all that wasn't a dream. He still remembers everything and everyone. Meanwhile, his mentor Raydoria von Dorich came over while scolding him that she was looking everywhere for him. But he was not at a designated place, so she was wondering where he ran off. Then she asks him his name and tells him she is a second year at this academy, and is assigned to be his mentor for today. She will be in his care. Desir already knows she is a genuine magician who attained the 6-tiered magic circle rank with her fire magic. While during her time in the academy, she was a model student who always attained first place in the rankings. Then she tells him there's no need to worry about the entrance exam, but he replies that he is just nervous. After that, she said while laughing that he doesn't need to worry about the entrance exam because the simulated shadow world is nothing compared to the real one. Desir surprisingly asks whether that is so. Then she replies that this exam will be tested to see if he has the skills to enter the real shadow world. Then she searched for him in her ebook tablet, where she knew he was just a commoner. He asked her if there was any problem with that, and she replied she thought of a commoner, even if he had been accepted into the academy. Still, a commoner will automatically be put into the beta class. Also, the people in the beta class will never get any training or proper education there. Afterward, she tells him that within this academy, discrimination exists. The nobles are put into the alpha class while the commoner is put into the beta class. And even if he is extremely talented and a commoner, he will forever be discriminated against in this academy. Still, in any case, this is something he can worry about this after getting accepted. Then she asks him if he knows about the shadow world, and he answers yes. She tells him if he wants to enter the shadow world, he has to make sure that he knows everything about it, even if he is only entering the simulated shadow world. For now, it's still a dangerous place. Then she asks him some questions for the sake of evaluating him while he is ready for every question. When she asks him about what the shadow world is, he explains it in so much detail that she gets surprised. He tells her that the shadow world is an extremely dangerous calamity that humanity has faced, and then he tells her about the infinite number of worlds there. Also, he tells her that some worlds might be relatively weak while others might be dangerous. These worlds are based on past historical events that happened in the current world. Then he tells her one thing for sure is that no living thing can survive in a land that the shadow has devoured, and that's why they must clear the mission objectives within the shadow world. Then she tells him the shadow world is currently managed by two different places, the Western Kingdom and the Harem Academy. Also, these two places are currently rivals in a competitive relationship because both of these places are trying to gather as much of the magic artifacts found within the shadow world as possible. And since they are members of the Harem Academy, they must participate in this competition. Then she asks him about does he know what it takes to clear the mission objective within the shadow world. Then he replies that he does because the shadow world is a parallel universe to the world they live in, and the event that happened in the past repeat themselves within the shadow world. Although the shadow world continues to devour their world, there is only one way to stop it. It is to directly infiltrate the shadow world and complete the mission objectives required for that world. For example, within the shadow world, if the scenario was a battle from the past and the battle in the past was a defeat, then all they have to do is turn that battle into a victory in the shadow world. And no matter what kind of shadow world they are in, as long as there is a scenario and a mission objective, they need to complete that mission objective to defeat that shadow world. After this, he told her everyone was preparing themselves as best as possible to complete the mission objective and ultimately defeat the shadow world. Still, the two major actions leading the front lines are the Western Kingdoms and the Harem Academy. After hearing all this, she gets surprised and then replies he is pretty knowledgeable, and if he knows this much, she has nothing to worry about and nothing else to tell him, so they have to move on. Then they move toward Harem Academy's main building, and she confirmed his student ID for entrance. However, the door opens, and the greeter welcomes them, saying the 4th tier magic circle magician Raydoria von Dorich welcomes them. There were many people, and she was very excited to get over there. Then she asked Desir why doesn't seem amazed by this place. He replies that there was a building that he went to before that was very similar to this place. But she doesn't believe him. How could a similar building be like that place? And then they both move forward. Suddenly, she stops because she gets surprised to see Ulfheim there. He also watches Raydoria from a distance. And when Desir asks her if she knows her at this, she nods but doesn't like him. However, Ulfheim was a magician who used water magic and was also her rival. Since Raydoria is a fire magician, she naturally didn't get along with him, but their personalities were incompatible, leading to their rocky relationship. When Desir asks her, it seems she doesn't get along very well with him. At this time, she angrily replies she despises him because he's arrogant, talks, and is always full of himself. Then they both come face to face. Ulfheim says she has arrived, but he thinks she is short and can't walk fast. At this, she angrily replies he hasn't changed, as she always wonders where he got his shitty attitude from. He angrily said her attitude is very befitting for a lowly fire magician. She replies while laughing, it hasn't even been a month since her lowly fire magic mercilessly destroyed him. Then he said she don't know the difference between losing and him going easy on her, that's why she is still inferior to him. She again laughed and replied that she was about to tell him if that was his true skill, he should drop out of this academy. He gets angry about this and then asks Desir if he is Raydoria's mentee. He also asks his name while telling him that he feels he has some manners, unlike hers, over there. Then he gets information about Desir after reading all data. He laughs by saying he is just a commoner, and he can't believe she is mentoring a basic commoner that's very befitting of her, and he guesses the match is already over. Then she angrily asks what he means is the match is already over. Then he asks her if she doesn't even check the group placement as they are in the same group, and her mentee will fail with this lineup. She replies there's no definite guarantee that he's going to fail. He can also win. Then he says it's impossible for her commoner. Has she seen his mentee? She is a magic swordsman and can check by herself if she can't believe it. When she asks her name and find all data about her, she gets surprised to read that an ice elemental magic swordsman utilizing vision magic. A 3-tiered magic circle magician with swordsmanship that's above most knight. This makes fun of her and asks that now, where is all her attitude gone? While leaving, he advises Desir saying even if he is lucky and gets accepted, he is just going to get put into the beta class, and there is no point in coming to this academy if he is in the beta class. he should give up on the entrance exam and leave. Desire looks at Aegis back when they are leaving and smiles. Greydoria was getting angry. Meanwhile, the announcement was made that the entrance exam would begin very soon, and they called test takers to start heading to the examination site. While in the academy's hall, everyone was chatting. When Desire was about to enter the door, he felt like he'd been there before. Meanwhile, someone says he can't stand still. He's embarrassed for their group, and when he looks at her, he is surprised to see his love Romantica. He moves toward her and puts his hands on her shoulder. While shaking her, he asks if she is alive, if she is okay, if she is hurt anywhere. She gets scared and asks him what he is doing and how dare he touch her. He apologizes, saying he must have lost his mind. He thinks he already knew this would happen but couldn't help himself after seeing her again. Then he said he was so happy about her that she looked healthy and refined. He asked her whether she knew that after losing her, he fell into despair, destroyed by suffering, and into anguish. However, he comes back in time before he loses everyone. He has been given a second chance, and now he is sure he won't allow this second chance to go to waste. Also, he will never lose her twice and save her even if he has to do anything for it. While Romantica and Travery do not understand what he is talking about. Meanwhile, the announcement was made that Group D's event has been decided, and the event will be the same as the group after Group D. And the event is a racing competition in the Plains of Ernest. However, the mission objective for the Shadow World is for them to cross the finish line faster than anyone else they are against. Also, the finish line is 8 km away from the starting point, and they can use magic during the race. Using magic attacks against other competitors is also allowed. And one more thing they should remember is that the pain reception will also be reduced by 80% due to safety regulations. If they forget the match or receive any critical injuries, they will be accepted as dead and immediately pulled out of the Shadow World. Then Travery asks Romantica as this is a competitive match and they have to fight against each other, and as they lucked out getting a racing competition for their event, he heard Group B had to fight against a giant troll. Then she replies, probably since they have a magic swordsman and some useless commoner in this group. This match will ultimately be between her and him. After that, they move ahead while wishing good luck to each other. Meanwhile, they get the order that the Shadow World will open soon, so all the participants line up in front of the gate. After this, the gate gets open, and the race is about to start while they stand behind the starting line. While looking toward Aegis, Desire thinks she might return in time like him. When she looks toward Desire and asks if he is there at this, he gets surprised and thinks maybe she knows everything like him. Still, when she said he is weaker, also it seems he doesn't understand he is extremely weak. His magical level is extremely low. His physical level is below average. At most he will only be able to clear Shadow Worlds around tier 6. After listening to this, Desire gets angry and thinks she is trying to pick a fight with him. But she tells him that he doesn't need to worry, she has no intention of attacking him. While standing alone, Desire thinks there's no point in attacking someone as weak as she. After this, an announcement was made that the race would begin in 10 seconds, and participants prepared themselves. Then the race starts between the four. Aegis and Travery run so fast, but Desire and Romantic stay behind. While running, Romantica feels a leaf comes under her feet. At this, she apologizes to the leaf and considers it cute. While Desire, looking toward her, says she is still the same, liking pretty things. At this, she angrily shouts he should pay more attention to race. After listening to this, Desire replies that even if he is paying attention to race, they both will fail at the rate it's going. She again shouts at him, saying stop being friendly with her commoner. What is wrong with him? Why is he so annoying? At this he replies it's because he is happy. While shouting asks if he is that happy over running now. He is seriously annoying her. However, while showing her hand to him, she said she was waiting for an excellent opportunity to use this. But she guessed it didn't matter now. A commoner like him would only be able to reach a tier 2 magic circle magician status at most. Then she swipes the air and uses her magic toward him, saying now see the difference in power. However, in the commentary room, the coach tells them that Group A and Group C have finished while Group D and Group F are left as everything progresses smoothly. They were discussing that, once again, this year's batch of students is quite exceptional, as last year was also exceptional. But there is that magic swordsman this year. While they were praising how ageist is she is the prime example of what a noble should be. One of them said she was in Group D. But as he heard in this group, a commoner as well, and he is pretty unfortunate for that commoner to put into that group. On the other side, race between Aegis and Travery continued. While running, Travery thought at the rate he was going, this wasn't just an easy win for him romantics, and then again, having a racing competition against a magician would have been an easy win for him as a knight. While looking toward Aegis, he thinks this magic swordsman is quite impressive. And when he looks back to see where Desire and Romantica are, suddenly, a strong gust of wind throws Travery away while he feels that Romantic is using her magic power. He thinks she's trying to blow them away, but unfortunately for her, he is wearing armor which makes him around 100 kilograms. Then he ground himself with his sword so he couldn't blow away, but he was surprised to see Aegis and how she was running in such a strong wind. But if she continues to cut through the wind, it will only tire her out, but he should wait until the wind stops. Instead of slowing, the wind becomes faster even though the trees throw out off the ground while he is shouting and get injured. After that, the wind stops blowing, and an announcement is made that Travery has been eliminated from the Shadow World, and now 3 participants remain. On the other side, Desire and Romantica were running, while she said it was too bad that the magic swordsman survived. But now it was his turn to leave as she is a nice person, so she would give him a chance to withdraw first as it's unnecessary for him to go through all the pain. However, Desire declined her offer, saying she did not see the magic power he displayed, which she couldn't even compete against as a commoner. After listening to this, she got worried and said she allowed him to withdraw since they said this is a simulated shadow world and people couldn't die in it. She used her magic to attack him while thinking she would attack him with everything she got so to do his best not to get eliminated. While he swiped the air, she was getting happy to think as she attacked him with tier 2 magic from this short distance. Even a 1-tiered magic circle magician can't withstand that much power. Still, Desire came out of her attack from behind safely, saying she condensed her magic and released a direct attack in one shot. And the magic she used earlier and the magic she used now, it was pretty impressive for a 2-tiered magic circle magician. Also, he considers her excellent, but she gets surprised and worried to see him. Desire tells her that it was impressive, but she needed to be more focused on the speed of her attack, and she neglected her control over the air current, and because of this, her accuracy will not be stable. So he could slightly alter the course of her attack, which caused her magic spell to go way off the mark. And when she asks what he just did at this, he politely replies that he analyzed her magic. She angrily says stop lying to her. He isn't even a 1-tiered magic circle magician, while Desire replies he isn't lying. However, Romantic was about to cry about how a commoner analyzed her magic. Then he explains to her that doing a complete analysis is only possible when she has full knowledge of all types of magic and runes. Also, the people capable of doing this have one of the highest tiers in the magic circle status. However, she wasn't conceding her defeat and said there should be a limit to his jokes and there was no way a commoner like him could do this. He was merely lucky. That's all it was, and there's no way that she would lose to a commoner like him. She attacked him again with wind venom. Still, he shows her to make her understand what he had done when she attacked him with her magic and how he just slightly altered the course of her air current in a couple of these places. And then he turns back the wind with his hands saying, and this is what happens. Romantica was embarrassed about how a commoner could defeat her magic. Then he said they should end this because there was someone he needed to beat. Still, instead of listening to him, she shouted that there was no way he could attack her, and while crying, she said that he couldn't even use magic and that if she kept attacking him, she would eventually defeat him. Desire politely replies that she is already strong, but there's probably only one other person who can beat her in this entire entrance exam. Even still, that's not enough, it will only repeat the painful past once more. But she still shouts at him that she knows he can become even stronger, that's why she needs to go ahead of him first. After this, Desire tells her the 3 mistakes she has made. First, although his magic is weak, he can still use it. Second, his target hasn't been her this entire time. When he used his grease magic in front of her, she doesn't understand 1 tier 1 physics magic. She thinks it was very basic magic that only grants the removal of fiction. So why is he using that magic right now even though this isn't offensive magic, and is he planning to make her slip and fall? But this ground isn't slippery. Then Desire tells her that the last mistake she made was that she had forgotten the main objective of this shadow world. She used magic while this isn't a magic competition, it's a racing competition. Also, he has a question for her. Where did he apply his grease magic at this? She replies that he didn't, he messed up so she didn't even activate. Desire replies that she is wrong also. Don't look at him with that expression. The answer is that he applied it to his own body. After that, he asks her, as she knows the principle of action and reaction. So then what happens if something pushes him from behind? At this she replies that it's obvious he is going to move forward. Then he asks what happens if something makes him with extreme force from behind, a powerful force equivalent to a large explosion. And when he shows her fireball, she shouts, is he crazy if he does that? Then he's going to cause himself massive damage. He may die when he crashes into something when he travels at that insane speed. Desire politely replies and makes her understand that she already said earlier that this is a simulated shadow world and people can't die there. He said the same rules apply in this situation. Then he used the fireball, pushing him with extreme force from behind him. While this fireball makes him so hard, even Romantica falls away aside. Desire now comes beside Aegis while looking toward her. She said the weaker go at her. At this, Desire replies and then sees who's the lowest. However, they both run so fast. While running, Aegis thinks if she leaves him alone, he might attack him from behind as the finish line is right in front of her. So, in this case, she will have to defeat him right now. While on the other side, Romantica thinks that girl is strong since she isn't there, which means that guy has beaten her. Then while using her magic, Aegis believes she will take him on with everything that she has got as she is the one who makes her enemies cry in agony. Then she attacks him, saying to fall prey under her magic arrows. Then while attacking, she said she didn't know how he managed to defeat her, but whatever gimmicks he pulled on Romantica would not work on her. While running, Desire thinks she was able to draw forth this considerable amount of magic in that short time as she is impressive beyond belief, but she's still looking down on him. After that, Desire uses his skill analysis to access her magic. While using his skill, he analyzes the structure of 180 magically linked runes within the magic arrows. Aegis gets scared to see how this speed of his analysis is at least at the level of a 6-tiered magic circle magician, and if she gives him any more time, he will gain access to the rest of her magic. Then she stabs him with all her powers, saying this is all end now. Although Desire gets injured, he emerges from her trance. She gets surprised to see this while thinking she only has 21 magic arrows left and the distance between him and her is about 200 meters, and in the end, the amount of magic arrows he could steal from her is 4. Then she decided to change her plan. If she can't overpower him with numbers, she will have to destroy him with pure strength. After this, she throws the 4 arrows toward him. At this, he thinks she finally used her head, but that is still not the correct answer. However, he used his skill analysis and threw it toward her magic arrows. Then the skill analysis and magic arrows collapsed. But Desire comes out while she thinks he's using the force of the explosion to propel himself. She takes out her sword and attacks him, but he jumps and lands above the limited line. An announcement was made that Desire cleared the shadow world while he was significantly injured. However, in the commentary room, judges are surprised to see how a commoner defeats the magic swordsman. Then Professor Pugman said that no commoners were picked for the alpha class, while the alpha class is specifically designed for the nobles only, and commoners who never received proper education should never be allowed there. They all started communicating with each other. Some were on Desire's side, while others were against him. Then the leader quieted them, saying this is the last student who is currently in consideration of being accepted into this academy. Also, he heard that the commoner came to this academy with a little recommendation. He asked all which one of them had recommended this student. However, they get surprised to hear how one of them could suggest a commoner. Meanwhile, Professor Bridget replies that she was recommended to him. When their head asks the reason behind this recommendation, she replies he has studied magic for a very long time, and his aptitude in learning magic was one of the best. Not just was he passionate about magic, but also talented. Then the head asks what is her relationship with this student. She replies that she met him at the orphanage by chance. Then the leader asks the coach about Desire's preliminary results, and he replies that he is a 1-tiered magic circle magician, but it seems he can barely attain this status. Then Professor Pugman asks Professor Bridget as she says he is talented. At this, she replies that how anyone views him. All those who believe that the magic swordsman would win should look at this video clip of the massive upset that occurred in Group D. Then she shows them how Aegis attacked Desire with her magic arrow, and how he saved himself, also how he won. Then one of them said Desire's talent in the magic analysis is unfathomable. His battle sense and his psychological ability to plan and adapt to everything are outstanding, as they can see how he has passed the test. Then they ask their head why he has already approved of his acceptance into the academy. At this, he replies as Professor Bridget says she wants to place this student into the Alpha Academy. After listening to this, Professor Pugman stood up and shouted about how they forgot this academy has a strict rule that determines the student's placement based on their talent. The student must be at least 2-tiered magic circle magicians to be put into the alpha class. Also, if they accept this student into the alpha class, anyone can be placed into the alpha class. Some of them agreed with Professor Pugman, but some were against it. At this, Professor Bridget gets angry and replies stop making obvious excuses. She knows that he has a different motive behind his rejection. He is rejecting because he is a commoner. However, the judge stops them, saying it seems this issue won't come to a conclusive agreement, and he is fully aware and understands both opinions and will settle this matter by the show of hands. And now those who agree to place him into the alpha class are shown by the rise of their hand, so they shall decide which category he will be put into. On the other side of the academy were two notice boards, one for the alpha class and the other for the beta class. The students in the alpha class were getting happy, while those in the beta class were sad but thought they should be satisfied that they were even accepted into this academy. And when Desir sees his name in the beta class list, he thinks he figured this would be the outcome while Romantica was also in his class. However, Desir was looking her aside, but she thought looking at him that the entrance exam was over, and the next thing she needed to do was get out of the way of this beta class loser. The next day in the classroom, Romantica thought that the classroom was old and shady, the cobwebs everywhere, the dust was piled up everywhere, and it stinks in there. She sighed that the place was so run down. She was crying, thinking even if this was a beta class, isn't this way too extreme, as the lecture was wrong. They were teaching meaningless things, and the professor was someone she had never even seen or heard of. Also, she knows this is what she gets for losing. While crying, she thinks, why does she be in the same class as him? And then she angrily looks toward Desir that she can't believe he's taking this class seriously. Did he seriously beat the magic swordsman? And if he did so, why is he in the beta class in any case? His skills are the real deal. When Desir looks at her with a smile, she feels he's annoying. She was crying while the other classmates looked at her. Then the professor asked her if there was any issue. Desir thought it didn't matter if someone was talented or not, and if they were a commoner, it meant they would still end up in the beta class, but this fact won't change. Also, many talented people will be buried and wasted in this place. If discrimination didn't exist in a place like this, then so many people in the beta class could have been appropriately trained, and so many people wouldn't have died back then. Even in this class, there are plenty of talented people, and if he doesn't want the past to repeat itself, there is only one way to change it. He will have to take all the talented people in the beta class and train them to the same status as the alpha class. But on the other side, Romantica was crying with her head on the table as she couldn't believe she was in the beta class. Meanwhile, Donovan Hound, from alpha class, comes close to her and asks if she is Romantica, the child of Baron Eru. At this, she replies, what about it? And who is he supposed to be? Then, his friend angrily says, how dare a mere beta talk that way? However, Donovan stops them, saying it's his fault also. He asks for forgiveness. Then, he introduces himself to her that he is a first-year student like her and is recruiting people to join a party. At this, she said, she hoped he could find a suitable party member who fits his standard. He replied that he also hoped so, that is why he is there now. Then she asks him what he expects from her. While two classmates secretly watched from behind the door, why would an alpha class come to this place? When Desir looks through the window, he thinks they are already trying to recruit Romantica. After this, Donovan said he was pretty disappointed in this academy, and that they would put a noble like her into such a low-quality beta class. However, Desir came into the classroom after seeing him. Donovan said a useless commoner. Then he asks her if she has heard of the party that Alheim Sunby is the leader of, the Blue Moon Party. Also, he has recently been admitted to that party and wants to recruit people like her with exceptional magic talent like her. When she asks about the Blue Moon Party at this, he says the most elite party within this academy, and it is currently the strongest party within the Harem Academy. It's not even an exaggeration, to say the least, when they claim to have the elite amongst the elite alpha class students within that party. While Romantic, after listening to this, she thinks she is sure that Magic Swordsman Aegis is at that party. If she does join that party, there's a high chance she can also transfer into the alpha class. This might be her only opportunity to leave this beta class. But she hesitated while the answer was obvious. Meanwhile, Donovan held her hand, saying if he helped her join the party, she would have to go out with him. Romantica asks him if they have met somewhere before. At this, he replies that it was love at first sight on the day of their entrance exam ceremony. She frees her hand from his hand and moves it to her, saying she needs time to think about it. After this, he says he is a gentleman, and then he gives her the ornamental knife, saying this is the custom of the knights of his kingdom. They give this knife to the person they like, and when he opens the knife and takes out the necklace, he presents this to her. She gets surprised, saying this is too much and can't take it. Meanwhile, he holds her arm and gives her the necklace, saying she doesn't have to feel burdened by it. Then they leave, saying Desir gets out of the way, commoner. After this, while Romantica was looking toward necklace, Desir comes over there, saying she sure is popular. She gets scared to see him even though she falls on the floor. While laughing, Desir said he is happy that she was this excited to see him. Does she need help to stand up? At this, she angrily replies she can get up on her own. After getting up, she asks him what he wants. At this, Desire replies he will give her the same offer as the guy from before. At this, she says she will not go out with someone like him. Desire said that's not the offer he was talking about. He wasn't there to ask her out. After this, she sighed, headed down to the table, and said, "Stop joking around." She wasn't in the mood at this. He asked why is there any problem, then she showed him the necklace. Then she asks him if he was in his position, so which party offer he thinks she should choose. While looking toward the necklace, she said an elite alpha party that is most likely guaranteed to succeed, or a beta party created by some random. He thinks as she has already made her decision. Also, he knows it will be hard for him to turn her decision around. But her decision right now will only lead to her demise in the future. She told him to leave her alone, but he took the letter from his pocket and put it on the table before her. After seeing this, she thinks so old-fashioned who write letters like this today. Desire asks her if she doesn't care about that letter, then he suggests that she dispose of it well because within that letter are all her secrets. Then she opens the letter and starts reading it. After this, he asks her if she wants to talk with him. At this, she angrily presses her hands on the table. While the other classmates were thinking about what was happening to her now, Desire stopped her, saying it's probably best for her not to cause a loud commotion because it was a secret that he would much rather keep private between them. Romantica, while crying, asks how he knows about this. At this, he says he isn't obliged to tell her that, but she knows for herself the real reason why he was placed into the beta class. She was really angry at this. He told her to come outside and talk as there were too many people there, which would probably be best for her. However, they both come out, and she asks him have he told anyone else about this. He replies that he hasn't told anyone himself, but most of the professors there already know about this. After this, he asks her why else she would have been placed into the beta class at this. She angrily shouts and replies that this academy is hundreds of miles away from the Pralesha kingdom, and there is no way they should know about this. Desire tells her that as she's looking down on the Havrian Academy's abilities to find personal information. Her family were merchants who became wealthy through commerce and trade within the Pralesha kingdom. Also, her family was once a commoner, while the bride was a poor baron in the south for their family. After she bought the baron title, her family acquired the last name Von Eru, which happened when she was 4. Also, her family's bullying into the nobility status was just the start of this whole situation. She gets surprised to hear about how a commoner knows her family history. Then he said that no matter how many times she argues that she is noble, it doesn't change the fact that her family was once a commoner. Another thing she should remember is that the professor in charge of the Blue Moon Party is Professor Niflika, and he knows about her family's true lineage, and Professor Niflika despises commoners. Romantics tells him she is sure that Donovan will protect her at this. He said if she saw how he treats commoners, then he is sure she knows that wouldn't be the case, and then she remembers how he shows his hatred after seeing Desire in class. And when Desire asks her what she will do now, she replies he thinks everything will go well by forcing her to his party. Then he gives her 1 month's condition. She still hates being in it after spending 1 month at his party, and she can leave whenever she wants. After this, he extended his hand toward her while handshaking. While holding his hand, she said even during the entrance exam, he was extremely annoying. After a few hours, Desire and Romantica sat in the mess hall even though she didn't like the food there. Then she said as he realized that establishing a party is pretty difficult, and it's only 2 of them. He needs at least 3 members to form an official party, and also, in beta class, there are a few prominent parties already. Desire replies as she is saying this party was horrible at first, but now it seems he genuinely cares about this party quite a bit. After listening to this, she shouts and replies that she only cares about this party because if it fails, it will be annoying for her to stay there for a whole month. While smiling, Desire replies that she doesn't have to worry because he already received approval to form this party from a professor he knows. As for the other party member, he already has someone in mind. He needs to go and persuade that person of this. She shouts and replies that he should have told her so from the beginning. However, she asks him about the person he has in mind. At this, he tells her he is Pram Schneider, a sword master from the beta class that survived for 9 years within the Shadow World. Also, his outstanding talent, hard effort, and determination to push himself to his limit allowed him to polish and master his piercing skills. And he is an extremely talented sword master and the strongest person in the beta class. Romantica wants to see him. Meanwhile, Pram enters the class, where there is a combined lecture for alpha and beta students. After seeing Pram, she gets inspired by his cuteness. While considering him an adorable child, she says he's the living existence of the definition of being cute. Also, he's way too cute. She wants to adopt him. She will do whatever she can to adopt him, even if it costs her life savings. While Desire was getting jealous after listening to her. However, it was a sword competition between the alpha and beta classes. Prem chose a long sword while Desire gets surprised to see this because he knew Prem always wielded a rapier. After this, a sword completion starts between Prem and the competitor. Before the competition, he introduces himself as Prem Schneider from beta class. His competitor says he won't properly greet a beta loser like him. Then the sword competition started between the two. The competitor attacked Prem with all his strength. He was just trying to kill him, and it shows his hatred toward the beta class. However, the competitor strikes his sword on Prem's arm and his sword falls away. After seeing this, Romantic asks Desire if didn't he say he was quite strong. He replies he is sure he is a swordmaster because it seems he's getting tired of his movement, and even a novice sworder wouldn't make those mistakes. Also, even though he is adorable, his skills are quite disappointing, and he thinks they should look for a different person to join their party. In his mind, Desire calls his name, while Prem feels that someone is calling him. The competitor starts hitting him, and he punches him even though his own hand gets injured. Desire comes toward them and asks him what he is doing. However, the competitor moves his sword toward Desire and asks him to leave while Desire picks Prem up. And when he sits up, he tells the competitor that he is pretty disappointed. He has no shame even though he is an alpha class student. Was he pride wounded that he had to go against a beta class student like him? Then he again attacked him with his sword, but Desire blocked his attack with his arm while asking if he was seriously trying to hit him again. Also, the match is already over. He has won, and what else does he need? However, in the professor's room, a guy went there and informed him that it was the commoner's fault for wandering near their mansion, and that the commoner deserved to get beaten. He did nothing wrong. On the other side, the competitor, while leaving, said he was annoyed at this. Desire replied he was lucky that there wasn't a professor there to see this. He said he didn't want to get lectured by some loser commoner. After this, Romantica comes near them while Prem was crying, holding Desire's arm. Then they go to the sick room where Prem ties a bandage to Desire's arm. Meanwhile, the Romantic said seeing Desire weak is pretty funny because this is karma for all the time he has teased her at the entrance exam. Prem asks for sorry for the trouble he has caused him as his dominant hand has been injured and crippled him from his daily life. But Desire relaxed him, saying he didn't need to worry because he decided to interfere. While crying, Prem replies that's not true. He will do whatever he can to take responsibility for this situation as he has involved him in his mess and made him an enemy of the alpha class. Desire politely replies he already knows what he is getting himself into when he jumps in. When Prem relaxes, Prem briefly introduces himself. Desire and Romantica also present themselves. Then they come out of the room for class. While on the way, Prem thanks him for all he has done for him today. Also, he will make sure to repay this debt, and if there is anything he can do for him, don't hesitate to ask. At this, Desire offers him to join his party, and then Prem excitedly replies it's not the most fabulous party, but he will. Then they go to Professor Brigitte's room. Before entering, Romantica asks Desire if he is sure he made a reservation. He replies don't worry, he already requested beforehand. Then he knocked on the door and entered, saying pardon their intrusion. At this, she said she had been expecting him, student Desire. Then she asks them to come in and sit and asks Desire about his injury. Also, she appreciates him for his performance as she is highly impressed. Also, Aegis was powerful, and she was the favored winner, yet he beat her. And when she taught him about magic, he complained that he couldn't learn about it. Romantic gets surprised at this. Professor Brigitte praised Desire for being so exceptional that it felt like he betrayed her expectations. Then, she asked him to take his tea before it got too cold. Then she urges Desire about the purpose of creating his party. He replies that he will take the promotional test with his party members and advance them to the alpha class. After this, Prem asks him what exactly he means about moving them to the alpha class. At this, Desire explains that in their academy, they have a ranking system and a promotional trend that determines the ranking of the students of their academy. Also, the test follows a tournament structure and selects the top 30 students. After being selected, the students will be placed into another trial in which they will be placed in a Tier 5 Shadow World and tasked with a special mission. The 9 students who pass the Shadow World will be given a unique title called Single Ranker, and determine where he places in this test. They will have the option to advance from the Beta class to the Alpha class. This Professor Brigitte says, pointing to Desire that he also wants to be one of the top 9 students and obtain a Single Ranker title. After listening, Romantica stands up and starts shouting, "Is he insane?" It is hard enough already to even be selected as one of the 30 students, and even if they are chosen to be the 30 students, they'll be ostracized because they are beta class students. Professor agreed with her, saying that usually the 30 students selected are all elite students from reputable parties, and these reputable parties are all from the alpha class, so if a beta class student was to be chosen, Prem adds that they will do whatever they can to eliminate them because they are beta class students. After this, Desire asks the professor what she thinks will happen if the best class students, whom all the alpha class look down upon, were to survive to the end using only 3 party members and were able to receive the single ranking title. Also, he wants to teach these talentless beta class students these commonly used statements that the alpha class said will all be revealed as excuses by them achieving this feat. It will become the single thing that these ridiculous discriminations must be changed. However, the professor permits him to form his party, but she will have to confirm some items before it. Then she asks Prem and Romantic do they want to join Desire's party. However, in the Harem Academy Training Center, Alpha class students have private access to this place. Romantica, while passing by, was much impressed by this place as she thought it was unfortunate that they couldn't use this area as well. And if they also have permission to use this place, she will stay loyal to the Harem Academy forever. After this, Desire takes them to the top floor of the training center. Romantica gets worried about seeing this place because it is dirty, there are rats everywhere, and this is where they have to do training. Desire pushed her to go in. After a while, he was sure she'd start liking these arts while crying. On the other side, an ant cut Prem's feet. At this, he started crying, but Desire relaxed him, saying there were probably rats since the training area hadn't been used for years. However, when they got in, there were more rats than expected. After this, the Romantic held Desire tightly while Prem was about to fade. Desire asks Romantica to clean the floor, but she shouts, saying what he is talking about. Even if she dies, she doesn't want to use this room, but Desire says he's going to use this room. Prem, while upset, sits on the stairs, thinking about where he has come from, but Desire tells him they've cleaned the room. After this, when Prem got into the room, he was embarrassed that Romantica and Desire had cleaned the room even though Desire's arm was injured. Then Romantica said she wanted to leave to take a bath, but Desire immediately asked if she was ready to start training at this. She shouts at him while she regrets the time when Professor Bridget asked her does she still wish to join the Student Desire party, and she agrees to join his party. The reason for her joining the party was that she was a tier 2 magic circle magician, and there was not possible for her to be able to make it into the top 9 rankings alone. Although she doesn't like Desire, she was forced because she wanted to be in ALF class, that's why she joins his party. Then she excitedly asks him to start the training. After this, they find ample space there. Desire tells them they will use it as a training area and office. Then he finds a ball there. He gives this to Romantica, which they will use for training. While giving it to her, Desire says she needs to focus on her magic casting speed. At this, she asks if he's talking about her magic casting speed, and then she will let him know it's pretty fast. Also, how could he forget about the entrance exam day? After this, Desire replies that the speed of that magic casting was not that bad. However, that's if she was a magician with no talent. Also, the student in the alpha class has already surpassed her speed by 100-fold, and she will be fighting these students while she is in a disadvantageous situation. Even if her skills were on par with these alpha class students, even then, passing the exam would still be quite tricky. When she asks him that he is telling her to have a way for them to raise their skills quickly while giving the ball, he nods and asks her to start from today. She will be using this for her training, and they will both learn how to do wordless casting. Then she scarcely asks about wordless casting. His mean that it is impossible to do that. At this, Desire tells her it's possible. She just hasn't realized how. After this, she said that usually a magic spell is activated after casting it, but with wordless casting, they can cast magic right away. Also, this concept is only possible theoretically. At this, Desire said he had seen someone be able to do wordless casting before. Also, the person who was able to do this was none other but she was. And if she doesn't want to do this, he hopes she is satisfied in continuing to eat that rock-hard bread. Then she asks what she needs to do. At this, he makes her understand by doing things before her. He drew 2 circles, one around her and one in front of her, and then told her to put a ball in her hand. While standing in the circle, moved this ball over to the other process, and when she tried to throw the ball over there, he said as a magician she couldn't throw this. However, using physical strength is forbidden, and from now on, she will manipulate the air current around her to move that ball over to the circle. Then she sat down in the process while she put the ball on the floor in front of her. At this, Desire thought controlling the air current as he knows it sounds easier than done. Still, she needed to view it as if a human was utilizing a bird's wing, and for ordinary people understanding that feeling would be hard to grasp. However, he encourages her also as she knows just staring at the ball won't make it move, as earlier, when she was cleaning, she used magic. Then she remembered and replied that the box was so heavy and the box was getting in the way, so she used her windstorm. And then he says she tries to remember her feelings during that incident, and she used magic because she was trying to move something out of the way, and he is sure she had the feeling that she wanted to move something out of the way using the wind. But she couldn't remember the incident, only she remembered that he was getting mad at her for waking up and causing a mess, but she will try to recall what she felt. Then she tries to move the ball using the wind, however, the ball moves a little. He appreciates her, and she gets happy that he compliments her. After this, Desir calls Prem at this. He asks Desir is his turn now, but Desir replies to be quite honest with him, and there isn't anything he can teach him as he is already a perfect swordmaster. Desir praises him, saying he is already skilled enough to take the placement exam right now. Within the alpha class, students at his level of swordsmanship are probably non-existent. Prem remembers when someone said to him what if he used his rapier, and not his longsword, wielding only his silverlight rapier. He attacked the enemy front lines. That splendid display of his swordsmanship made him stand out amongst the survivors. Then Prem asks Desir why isn't he using the rapier. Also, how did he know he used a sword before? Does he tell him why is it's an issue that involves their party's strengths and weaknesses? At this, Desir said he wants to know. However, then Prem asks him to come with him for a bit. When they both come out, Prem was not feeling good that they leave Romantica alone like that. At this, Desir says she was practicing, and he gets permission from her before coming out. While on the way, Prem tells him he hasn't seen his father also. His mother was a commoner. His father was from a noble family, and he was an illegitimate child. He wants to show him an item that his father left behind for him. Then he shows him the rapier that his father left behind for him, while Desir asks him if he can see that for a second. After holding this, Desir feels even for a rapiers, which is way too long. Then, he reads the inscription on the handle. Then Prem says he was around 6 years old when he